So we're throwing an Alice in Wonderland birthday party for my soon-to-be 3-year-old, and it wasn't until I was watching this movie for the 100th time that I noticed there was a cake, and so of course that means I have to try to make it. So I wasn't sure how to go about this until I went into Halloween, Spirit Halloween, and I saw this top hat. So I'm going to use this top hat as a base to build that Alice in Wonderland cake. So first I went and outlined the top of the hat onto some cardstock so that I had the measurement to cut out the felt. And then from there, I just started ripping this hat apart. I started with taking off the rim of the hat first so that I could get the bottom of the cake measurement. So I flipped that upside down, measured the bottom onto some cardstock so that I had it. And then from there, I just started taking off all the material so that I could get to the cardboard that was inside. Once I got the cardboard out, I laid it flat onto my pink felt and I outlined it with my disappearing ink pen and then cut it out. From there, I'm going to glue my cardboard back together. And then it will allow me to just glue the felt right onto the cardboard. I decided to just use the cardboard because this is a big cake and it needed more structure than just cardstock. And it allowed me not to have to fill it with a bunch of polyfill. So I'm just gluing my felt onto the cardboard. And then I didn't get this on film, but once I get it all glued and I have my seams together, I'm just going to do a blanket stitch, connecting my seams all together and making it look like a really nice finished look on the outside. And then from there, I just moved on to making the top of the cake. So I'm just gluing my cardstock onto the top of the felt, and then I'm going to attach the top piece to the side by doing a blanket stitch. And I'm going to blanket stitch along the whole edge, and then I'm going to flip it over and do the bottom of the cake, same thing. And then also not adding any polyfill because the cardboard is thick enough that it doesn't need the polyfill to stand up. And then from there, I started working on the frosting that was going to be on the side of the cake. Now, the only way that I could think of doing this frosting and having it drape nicely was to take a thin strip of felt and fold it into little S's and glue it so that it created this long strand of like a ruffle. And then once I had the perfect length, I would tack it onto the cake and make sure that it was nice and center before I went and glued it down. So this is what it looks like once I glued down the ruffles. I made sure to put little puffs of frosting where they connected so that it looked more like finished. And then I moved on to add all these little whipped cream things on the base of the cake. And then once I was done with the base, I moved on to the top, which I did slightly bigger whipped cream on the top because I still wanted it to look like it was small on the bottom and grew into a larger cake on top. But once I was done with the whipped cream, it was time to add some flowers. Now I know in the photo it kind of looked like they were green flowers, but anytime I looked it up online, it was this teal blue. So I just went ahead and did a teal flower. And then from there, I just added some extra felt into my whipped creams or my frostings on the top just to make them look a little bit more full. So you couldn't see the seams or the stitches. But this is what it looks like. And then it was time to move on to the big candle that sits on top. So I took a square and outlined it onto a white felt, cut it out, and then I blanket stitched the sides together so it created a tunnel. And then I added the bottom to it with blanket stitch before I started stuffing it with polyfill. And then once I stuffed it with polyfill, I wanted to add the purple detail on the outside of the candle because the candle was white and purple. So I cut out a thin strip of purple felt to then wrap around the candle. And then once I had it positioned how I want, I went in and glued it down. And then I added the top of the candle. And then it was time to add the flame. So when it came to the flame, I did exactly how I usually do when I make a strawberry. So I outline a circle onto an orange felt and then I cut it out. And then from there, once I had my circle cut out, I will cut that circle in half. And I'll only use half of it to create the flame. So then I will fold it in half again, and then I'm going to blanket stitch along the edge, connecting the piece together until I get to the top. And then once I get to the top, I'm going to weave in and out of the felt to create kind of like a cinched bag. But then I'm going to add polyfill into there before I close it completely. Once I have it nice and stuffed, I'll make sure to close it as much as I can, and then it's time to just glue it straight onto the candlestick. Something that I didn't get on video was I did cut out a larger teal flower to sit in the middle of the cake, which also sits underneath this candle. So this is what my cake looks like all done. I think I did a pretty good job making a cake out of a top hat. For reference, this is what the cake looks like in the movie. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think.